Hi guys and girls and kittens, and welcome to the AINIRO Magic Show. So in this video I'm demonstrating something that we will not be releasing before Sunday. That's 2 days from now. If you're watching this YouTube video in the future, you'll probably already got access to it in your cloudlets. So as you're probably aware of, if you've seen some of our previous YouTube videos, we have this ability to invoke AI functions. Let me show you what an AI function is on the type. If I now go here to my AINIRO type here, you can see, okay, we have list product hunt products. This is a function invocation. We're basically instructing ChatGPT to return a function invocation, which the cloudlet then executes before it invokes ChatGPT again. And you can declare function invocations both as training snippets, and you can declare them in the system message. I'm not sure if this one has one. Yes, it does. Web search. And then it has web scraping. Okay, so let's try the web scraping bugger. Scrape www.billionaire.org and create a 1-paragraph summary. Just to illustrate how AI functions work. Every time the system invokes an AI function, you will see this waiting guy, and then you will see once the function is successfully executed, you will see success. If it fails, it will return a red button instead of a green one. And here you can see Billionaire is a platform dedicated to blah, blah, blah. Obviously, this is taken from Billionaire's website. So, and AI functions can do really everything. And let me illustrate that. And this is the reason why I'm in localhost here, my own development environment, because this isn't quite released quite yet. So let me demonstrate that by going to HyperID and verifying, okay, I don't have the module for the database called Chinook. Chinook is a database, plugin database. You can find it in Manage and plugins if you want to. As you can see, Chinook is one of our SQLite example databases that you can install. If you don't already have it in your cloudlet, you can click install here, at which point you will get the database here. Now, if I click create and I click endpoint generator and I choose this Chinook table or database, then I can go through all of my columns here or tables here. I can select one at a time and choose settings for individual tables. But basically what this does, it basically creates HTTP endpoints for every single CRUD verb towards every single table in this database. Now you can choose administration and authorization requirements. I'm just going to turn off everything. Why? Because the chatbot front end currently does not have the ability to invoke authorized requests. So if we have authorization on these endpoints, it's simply not going to work. And then let me just click generate endpoints, at which point the system produced 2,798 lines of code for me, and I can go into HyperID here, click modules, click Chinook, and I can actually look at the code here. As you can see, all of this code was automatically created for me. At this point, I can turn this HTTP endpoint into an AI function invocation. And there are two ways to do that. I can go to machine learning here and I can choose training data. I can choose my type, AINIRO, add function. And then of course, this isn't a workflow type of Lambda file, so I need to show internal workflows. At which point now, if I look for instance, find album, you will see, okay, here's album counts, album delete, album read, album create. But the other means I have to generate an AI function. Now at this point I can just click install and change the prompt to something relevant. But the other means I have to install AI functions is actually directly from within here. If I hover over the file, if I go to album.get.hl for instance, you see I hover over, I have a flash icon, a lightning icon here, copy as AI function. I can just click this guy, boom. The AI function is on my clipboard, at which point I can go back to my machine learning component. I can click add after having filtered on my specific type, and I can add, for instance, let me see, how to read albums. Just paste it in. Ta-da, I'm done. Now, if I save this guy and I go back to my type and I click vectorize here now, and I go back to the front-end AI chatbot and I ask it to read the top 5 albums sorted by name. Then you will see OpenAI returns a function invocation. The Cloudlet invokes the function, sends the result of that function invocation back to OpenAI, and OpenAI transpiles that into some sort of like result according to my original instruction. Here you can see Metallica, Justice for All, Copland Celebration, Matter of Life and Death, a real dead one, real live ones, etc., etc. And it doesn't stop with reading, in fact. However, at this point, you need to be a little bit careful because, as I said previously, we don't have authentication and authorization in the front-end AI chatbot. So this implies that if you add a function invocation to a machine learning type and or model, then any user having access to that AI chatbot is actually going to be able to execute that particular function. So obviously in a production grade AI chatbot, I would never do what I am about to illustrate now. However, you can do it, and in the future we will add authentication and authorization, but at the moment we don't have that particular feature, so be careful with this. So now if I go to, for instance, the put, I click this guy, right? Go back to machine learning type, I click training data, choose my AINIRO type, I click add, update an album. Paste in this particular function invocation declaration, click save, go back to types, I vectorize the model, and I wait for it to be done. I go back here and I say update the name, the album name to, update the album name of number 1 to Thomas Hansen was here. And now you will see it's actually executing that particular AI function. Now, if I do something like read albums with names containing the text Thomas, then hopefully it's going to actually return the album called Thomas Hansen was here. Let's see, Thomas Hansen was here. Artist Metallica, album ID 156. So not only was I able to actually read items from my database, but I was also actually able to update items. So now let's have a look at how you actually create a function, right? Completely from scratch. Because this is one of like the really kick-ass features, which is the ability to manually create a function. Let's say I want to, for instance, create a function called send email.hl, right? Now I need to provide a description. Why? Because the description becomes a part of the prompt engineering when I later add this particular pipeline, the file up as an AI function. Sends an email to the specified recipient. Email and name are mandatory. Let's see, all arguments are mandatory. Then I add email, okay, string, name, string, subject, okay, string, body. Hopefully I'm going to have this working without any demo tools now. Sends an email, let me just save the file, sends an email to the specified recipient with the specified subject and body. The body argument can be marked down. All arguments are mandatory. Okay, so now if I do search up here, markdown to HTML, then I'm going to transform the body into markdown. Then let me do email. So name, email, from. I don't need to supply from because by default the Cloudlet is going to use the default from email and from email name. And I don't need a reply to argument, and I don't want to change the subject, but I want to change the body. Why? Because I want it to be HTML. And then I want to make sure that the email send invocation is actually sending the email as HTML. And now I can just like return result success. Save the file, and now I can copy this guy, go back into here, close, training data, AINIRO, add, send an email. Yet again, you don't want to expose this in a publicly available Cloudlet. Why? Because if you do, then anybody having access to your AI chatbot is actually going to be able to use your AI chatbot to spam other people, right? So you need to think when you add an AI function to an AI chatbot. You need to think. You need to stop and think. Is this a potentiality for allowing anybody having access to the AI chatbot to execute malicious code? And this would be a malicious code. Now we can even modify it here. Send an email. Let's see. So here you can see the prompt engineering for this particular AI function. Send an email. Okay, if I say send an email, it's going to kick in on this training snippet. Sends an email to a specified recipient with a specified subject and body. The body argument can be marked down. All arguments are mandatory. Now I might want to prompt engineer it a little bit. If the user does not provide all mandatory arguments, then ask him to provide this before responding with the function invocation below. It's just prompt engineering, right? But I'm still coding. So I'm coding using prompt engineering, right? And actually, it kind of like says that here. If the user asks you to perform an action associated with this function invocation, and inform the user of what you're about to do, and do not return follow-up questions, but instead end your response with the following. So this becomes the actual function invocation on the Cloudlet. And here you can see email type of argument is string, name, subject, body. Now when I save this guy, it's going to automatically update it and revectorize this training snippet. I can go back to my chatbot here and tell it to send an email. Right. Now it's going to ask me for a name, email address, subject, and a body. Right. Okay, my name is Thomas Hansen. My two email address is thomas@gaiasol.com. Subject is hello. Body is I'm interested in a meeting with you guys. Let's see now if this succeeds. Hopefully it will succeed. Waiting. Now let's see if it returns a green icon. It did, and the email has been successfully sent to Thomas Hansen. So now I manually created a workflow, which I then click the flash icon on to copy and paste it into a new training snippet that I could add to my model. And I could have done this also by going to add function here, clicking the show internal workflows and search for find send email, at which point I can install it like this. And I can also, instead of adding it like any one of these two ways, I can also copy the function invocation declaration here. I can go to types and I can click AINIRO and I can embed it into the system message here with a cool header, how to send an email. Right. Now, if I do the latter, and there are some subtleties in regards to the difference between this way of doing things, adding it to the system message, and the ability to add it as a training snippet, which is that if it's a part of the system message, then it's always, the base model is always going to know how to send an email, right? Now, if it's not, then the ability to actually kick in on the email send invocation requires that you actually write something into the AI chatbot that kicks in on the training snippet. So if I now write send Thomas at gaiasol.com and email, his name is Thomas Hansen, use the subject foo and the body bar. Now, why I want to do this is because I want to go back here now into machine learning types, click training data, click my type, filter on VSS, and see if this even kicks in on the training snippet. And it might not actually do that. So you can see here now it's like number 3, right? Which means if I had a significantly longer email containing all sorts of weird stuff, let's say I'm interested in your AI chatbot. How can it benefit my business? Right, so now if I copy this guy, and now you'll see send an email pops way further down here, right? So it's not even on the first page, which implies it's probably not even going to kick in on this particular prompt. So for those types of prompts where you need the base model to actually know how to send an email, regardless of whatever the user types into the front end's AI chatbot, you want to do it in your types, on your configuration, in your system as such, right? And this is why we added this thing that allows me to copy the function invocation and paste it in here, right? So these are like the three different methods you have as of Sunday. I need to emphasize to actually add a function invocation to an AI chatbot. I need to yet again emphasize not all Hyperlambda files are safe to use as functions. You need to stop and think. For instance, when I added the update thing here, right, for update album, right, I mean, this allows any schmuck to go to your chatbots and write stuff such as list all albums, right? For those about rock, right? Now I can tell it to update the name of item number of album number 1 to fuck you asshole, right? And at which point any schmuck with access to your AI chatbot is going to be able to do stuff such as this, or spam other people with emails, etc., etc. So you need to stop and think whenever you want to add an AI function to an AI chatbot, because the AI chatbot, if it is publicly exposed, it does not have authentication and authorization. This is a feature we are working on and we will implement in future iterations of Magic Cloud. However, for the time being, it does not have this particular feature. So you need to think, is it wise of me to add this function to this particular AI chatbot? However, apart from that, have fun. And as always, have a nice day.